Over the last decade, foods we've always thought of as exclusively Southern have spread nationwide. Now, restaurants across the country are serving shrimp and grits, Nashville hot chicken, and that Southern soul food chicken and waffles. So which Southern food will be the next to hit the culinary big time? Well, maybe spoonbread, the dish synonymous with Appalachia. After all, it already has its own festival.
Spoonbread, that is $1 million question because everybody you talk to is going to give you a little bit different description of it. It is not corn pudding. It's not bread pudding. It's definitely not a main dish. It's not a dessert, and it's not really a bread. It's a phenomenal dish, but it's definitely an Appalachian dish. And if you've never tasted it, it's just something you have to experience.
Spoonbread is basically kind of a cross between cornbread and a custard. And there's a wide range of what I consider to be spoonbread because there are different techniques. Most of the recipes have similar ingredients. There's butter, there's eggs, there's white cornmeal typically is what is the cornmeal used as opposed to yellow. Milk or buttermilk, some kind of leavening agent, baking powder and baking soda, or sometimes just baking powder. Because of the eggs, because of the milk, it's lighter like a souffle, it's lighter like a custard. I feel like the Boone Tavern recipe that I like the most has a texture kind of similar to like a flan, to like a custard flan. And it does have that kind of corn flavor that you would associate with cornbread. My son thinks of it as kind of like a Dutch baby. And it does kind of puff up like that, kind of around the edges. Supposedly it comes from a Native American dish that was called sapone, I think is how they pronounce it. But it was basically just a mush with boiling water and cornmeal. And then the real beginning of spoonbread as we know it, especially associated in Kentucky, is 1904. Minnie Fox, from a wealthy socialite from Paris, Kentucky, wrote a book called The Bluegrass Cookbook. But the idea of calling it spoonbread really comes from the fact that it's not quite a cornbread that you're cutting with a knife, but it's something softer that can be cut with a spoon. I think it's considered technically, a side that would be enjoyed with, maybe fried chicken and, other vegetables, carrots, things like that alongside. Well, so this is what I find to be really interesting is that the recipes aren't all the same, is that we do have this really divergent, method of doing it, even though we're looking for a very similar final product. So the recipe that we're going to do from the Boone Tavern cookbook is you boil the milk and you whisk in the cornmeal to that. And that is very much like if you've made Italian polenta. And then they call for cooling it. A lot of times I will actually cool it in the mixer, sort of along the lines of the same way you would make like a Swiss buttercream, in that by putting it in the mixer warm and turning on the mixer and leaving it there for like 10 minutes, the air is actually cooling it. So by aerating it, you're cooling it down because you don't want to put the eggs into anything hot because they'll just scramble and it will separate. And so once it reaches kind of room temperature, then adding in the eggs, adding in the milk, adding in the leavening agent, and also some salt, and then putting that into a greased pie dish or a souffle dish and in the oven about 30 minutes, and it comes out and it's ready to go. I think it's definitely something you want to eat hot right away too, much like a Dutch baby or a souffle. It's left over cold, it's not near as good as it is right out of the oven.
Most people will eat it with honey or butter, and there's kind of a debate on which one is the best. Some old-timers even use molasses, but here at the festival, we serve it with butter or honey. You have to come and taste it yourself to decide which one you like. The Spoonbread Festival is a 3-day event that happens here in Berea, Kentucky, every September, the third full weekend in September. Spoonbread is the traditional dish served at Boone Tavern here in town.
Spoonbread is a traditional item we've been serving for over 70 years. Serve it 365 days a year for lunch and dinner to every guest who eats in the restaurant.
Here at the festival, we normally make about 400 pans, sometimes a little more, sometimes a little less. And it's served by the spoon into a small bowl, and we get 12 servings per pan. So that's about 4,800 servings throughout the weekend. One of the big things of our Spoonbread Festival is the Spoonbread Eating Contest, which is something you've got to see to even believe.
Everybody has a 9-inch pie pan with spoonbread. The first person to finish and get the bowl up over your head is declared our winner. 1, 2, 3, go! Appreciate your participation and congratulations to all of you. Thank you.